All right, let's talk about the top of the NBA draft as well as a couple of random things that happened tonight amongst trades and all that. To start with Banchero to Orlando, I mean, the odds makers knew something that a lot of other people didn't, so kudos to them. Look, man, for Orlando, they had to choose between Banchero's size and shot creation skills, Jabari Smith being an amazing shooter in his defense, or Chet's unicorn esque handle and shot and rim protection. And I mean, I was thinking about him playing next to Wendell and all that. And clearly, they valued the shot creation the most, which I think is fair. In fact, a lot of people who are really plugged into the draft more than me over the last week or two were like, yeah, we think Banchero's the best player, but we think the Magic are going to go with Jabari Smith. I feel like right now, Banchero can step into the NBA and he can honestly bully some NBA defenders, especially if he can get a switch onto a guard or even some wings who are just not big enough. I mean, Banchero is a big dude, man. 6'10 with that handle. His mid range has also been kind of awesome in college. And so as I think about him with Franz and Cole Anthony and Jalen Suggs and Wendell Carter, I'm guessing that's your starting five, right? I feel like it makes the roster just make a lot more sense because in the case of Franz, I mean, he did have a better rookie season in creating offense and all that than I think the consensus was on him. Like everybody knew that he could dribble, but I mean, there were times where he was just getting it in a pick and roll and either getting ahead of steam, finishing inside, or it was him busting out isolation moves in possessions that were going nowhere occasionally, on top of like having a good 3-point shot and all that. But I think there still was this thought of like, what really is Franz's ceiling as a scorer? And that answer is not here yet, of course. There is a chance that he's like a plus 20-point guy. But you're a little more confident that Banchero is that guy, right? And so it's like, all right, maybe Franz is now you're just number two. Cool, love it. Cole Anthony, his shot selection is a bit daring. His pull-up three was going in a lot in the beginning of the season. It kind of cooled off as the year went along. He and Franz just don't have as much pressure on them now to create offense. And let's not forget about Markelle Fultz, who was able to play a bit at the tail end of the season after the torn ACL left him out for a while. Jonathan Isaac also still technically on the roster. That's all I got for you on him. I mean, Wendell, he had moments of doing stuff off the dribble besides just your regular big man things of rolling to the rim and crashing the glass. His shooting took some strides last season, like the three-pointers got up to about 3.5 a game. The percentage wasn't great, but even so, it's like there could be something there. He also shot in the mid-40s for mid-range, so a lot of good signs with his shooting. Brewing offensively for Orlando, and now that you have Banchero who can at the center of all that offensively, it looks good. Now his passing and defense are not where his scoring and just his blending of his handle and his mid-range and his size and all that and drawing contact around the rim or just finishing through guys at the rim. So we'll see with those, but I like the pick. On to Chet with OKC. So every single draft person that is just all in on it says that Chet's defensive potential is kind of unreal. And when you look at the rim protection stuff, when you look at how he can defend outside of the paint, yeah, I can see it, man. Now the question I've got with Chet, besides the weight, of course, is will OKC play him exclusively at center? Will it be a mix of him playing with another big guy where he's, I guess, technically the power forward? I don't know. I mean, you would love to have that rim protection around the rim, just to state a basic thing here. But also as a weak side defender, he could also be really effective as well. And that was something I was thinking about, because you know how the Celtics use Time Lord defensively and they just pick the guy to allow him to help off of? I feel like Chet could do that really effectively. He can still also just be the guy manning right in front of the rim if you want as well. I mean, his defensive versatility, it is pretty nutty. And if OKC chooses to hang on to Lou Dort, then that could be the foundation of a pretty damn good defense. Offensively for Chet, of course, you think about him screening for SGA and Giddey, the roll potential, the pop potential, if he's off like in the dunker spot or standing in the corner and the defense has to collapse for the sake of an SGA drive, let's just say, that can be a Chet 3, that could be a cut, that could be him attacking the offensive glass. And again, if I didn't already say it, like there's also the handle, so he can be attacking closeouts, he can grab a rebound and bring it up court himself, he could do a lot, man. As far as Jabari Smith with Houston, well, it's not just a matter of saying he can shoot. I mean, obviously he can. I mean, the jump shot is as beautiful as it can be, pretty much. But it is turnaround jumpers, pull-ups, contested three-pointers. Dudes are right on him and he's making it anyway. The question really just is, where can he get to as a ball handler, shot creator? Some people don't care because they're like, well, he can get to his spot enough and nobody can block his shot, so it's fine. Other people are like, yeah, but it's the NBA, man. Like, it's just going to be a little tougher for you to get to that comfortable 14-foot spot where you can get to your fadeaway or, whatever you want to call it, right? I think early on it's going to be on Houston to have him working off ball. And for what it's worth, I would like to think that he's a good enough ball handler to where at least if he catches it on the move and he's got a little bit of daylight, he could then do the next thing, whatever it is. I'm definitely intrigued to see him moving off the ball while Şengün has it, whether it's at the top of the key, whether it's in the post. And as far as his fit with Jalen Green, so by the end of the season, Jalen Green's pick and roll possessions, I would say it was like a healthy amount. It was definitely something Houston dabbled in a bit more. And Green, he did have some moments where he was making some split-second reads out of the pick and roll, whether that is finding the shooter in the corner, finding a guy in a dunker spot, whatever it might be. Of course, his shot making by the end of the season was pretty nutty as well. And listen, man, shot making is cool. When the shots go in, very nice. And Jalen Green and Jabari Smith Jr., they're going to make a lot of shots. Let's go to Sacramento with Keegan Murray at number 4. So, based on every draft thing that I read and everybody's rankings and all that, nobody had Keegan Murray above Jaden Ivey. That does not mean the Kings made the wrong pick. I mean, Keegan Murray, he's got NBA wing written all over him between the three-point percentage, which was basically 40%, 6'8", 6'11 wingspan. He has a good enough handle to do stuff in transition as well as attack closeouts. And because of that size, like once he gets an angle on a guy, that's just enough for him to use just a bit of that size to finish inside, whatever it is. And also, people are saying like he's going to be great at guarding wings right away. When it comes to guards and center, that's a little bit more of we'll see. But yeah, like I don't think there's much to be upset about with taking that if you're Sacramento. It's just when you compare that to Jaden Ivey, who is a lot more dynamic offensively and has an amazing first step and can consistently finish at the rim. And the questions with him are mainly like his mid-range shooting, his floater. The three got better in his last year of college, but there's still like some little questions there. It just seems like it could have been the safe pick for Sacramento. It could have been the fit pick as well because they already got De'Aaron Fox and Davion Mitchell. That doesn't mean it was wrong. There's a chance Keegan Murray's going to be awesome, but people really, really like Jaden Ivey. And we think about Jaden Ivey with the Pistons now. They needed more creation around Cade. And Jaden Ivey's kind of ideal in some ways next to Cade because Ivey's not somebody who you want to run too much through because his playmaking is, split-second decisions, making the reads and all that. It's just not where Cade is at on that. But I feel like he can attack closeouts that are created by Cade from collapsing the defense. I've found some conflicting reports about his catch-and-shoot numbers. I've seen some say he shot like 29% on catch-and-shoots. I've seen others say it was as high as 35%. He can also just make some plays himself on a possession where Cade doesn't have to do everything. Or it could just be as simple as Jaden Ivey getting a screen from either Isaiah Stewart or Jalen Duren, their new center. And the Pistons had a hell of a draft getting both of these guys, by the way. And now when you look at the Jeremy Grant trade, it was really Grant for Jalen Duren plus like 3 second-round picks, I believe, one of which is number 36 in this draft, and then a couple more a couple years from now. So it looks a little better than that Bucks 2025 first, which I believe is now going to the Knicks. So yeah, and speaking of the Knicks, they've now gotten themselves, 3 OKC protected firsts, one of which will most likely convey next season because it's a Nuggets lottery protected pick. After that, it's a Wizards and Pistons picks, which are probably going to roll over into the future, and eventually they're going to get those. They also sent out Kemba, which means now they're basically holding up a billboard that says, we are going to use all of the rest of our money for Jalen Brunson, because they've got a bit of cap space now. Okay, I mean, there were rumors that they were going to go all in to get the 4th pick for Jaden Ivey. Obviously, it didn't happen. Speaking of Duren, we also had that, 10-minute stretch where Woj and Shams were tweeting different things about where he was going because it was a 3-team deal, and it was like, what the hell's going on right now? So that was fun. Speaking of that, Charlotte also got themselves Mark Williams, who I think was a lot of NBA draft people's, I don't have this guy in the top whatever, but he's secretly my favorite player, if you know what I mean. Hey, look, man, we all know what Charlotte needs. They need a center who can protect the rim, and do stuff around the basket, be a lob threat, set screens, all that nice stuff. And a lot of people like the. Let's talk about some more in the lottery real quick. Shaden Sharp going to the Blazers. A lot of draft people were basically like, hey, look, man, I've got him here on my big board, but if he played in college, there's a chance he could have been a lot higher because, if you describe him as a player, a lot of it is similar to Jalen Green of last season, right? Shiftiness, the shooting, great athlete who can finish above the rim consistently, but he didn't play in college. There's also questions about his shot selection and is his handle really where it needs to be, or is there a little more improvement that needs to be there? And so now with Portland, it's a little interesting, man. I mean, of course, they got Dame and Simons ahead of him. Could we picture him playing with at least one of those guys at times? I mean, he's not a small guard. He's listed at 6'6", although I've seen some things say he's like 6'4.5". I don't know. So we'll see. But my gut would be we're not going to see a whole lot of him, Dame, and Simons together that much next season. As far as the long term, hey, listen, man, Damian Lillard's not young, and if we ever do come to that point, that is some nice insurance if Sharp can really be as awesome as some draft people say he can be.